Welcome back. This time we're talking about Sully, director Clint Eastwood's take on The Miracle on the Hudson. Now before I get into the film itself, let me apologize for not having any videos up for the last week and a half. We pretty much got a direct hit from Hurricane Hermine, and my community has been struggling to recover ever since. Me personally, we were pretty okay. We lost power for about 12 hours, but a lot of people I know and a lot of people I work with didn't have power for 3 to 4 days. And pretty much none of the theaters nearby were open as well. In fact, my theater of choice, my regular theater, didn't actually open until yesterday, Friday. But directly along the coast, it's even worse. A lot of people lost everything. We had bad storm surge, and scores, if not hundreds of homes were directly affected. So it's taken a little time just to get back into the mood of going to movies, watching and talking about them. And now I'm back. So let's get back into Sully. Now, if somehow you're not familiar with The Miracle on the Hudson, this was an incident that took place on January 15th, 2009. And it was a U.S. Airways flight leaving New York City, going to Charlotte. And a couple minutes into the flight, they struck some birds and lost thrust in both engines. And Captain Sullenberg, played in this movie by Tom Hanks, was able to successfully land the plane in the middle of the Hudson River. And all 155 people on board, including Sullenberg himself, survived. And as we saw the news of this downright miraculous event, you knew it was a story that had to be made into a movie sooner or later. And frankly, it's a little surprising that it's taken over 7 years to actually make a theatrical film about this story. But here we are. We have Sully, directed by Clint Eastwood, and as I said earlier, starring Tom Hanks, and also co-starring Aaron Eckhart as co-pilot Jeff Skiles, as well as Laura Linney playing Sullenberg's wife. While I'll say this is not a perfect film, it is one I've thoroughly enjoyed, and it may just be because of everything that's been going around here with the hurricane. It was just really nice to see a story in which I knew was going to have a happy ending. And just turn on the news. You see terrorism, you see violence, you see unrest every day, and it's so rare to see one of these stories where not most people survived. Every single one of the 155 people on this plane survived. And the trailers, I love the marketing campaign for this movie. There were 2 trailers. The first trailer is the one I've seen the most. It was the one that just kept playing in front of movie after movie after movie this summer. And without fail, that trailer gave me goosebumps. It is downright one of my favorite trailers of this year. And this has been a good year for trailers. But going in, the questions were, how do you tell a story in which the vast majority of the people that are going to go see it know what's going to happen? I mean, this is a very well documented story. The air traffic control recordings have been available since like the day it happened or shortly thereafter. Plus, this is an event from bird strike to landing is 208 seconds. So you have a little over 3 minutes of action, for the lack of a better word. How do you tell this story? And ultimately, the decision that Eastwood and the screenwriter Tom Komarnicki, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Anyway, the way they decided to go with this is they tell a very non-linear version of this story, which immediately harkens back to Eastwood's take on Chris Kyle in American Sniper and how that was told through a variety of flashbacks. The film actually begins after the event, and it's actually pretty far into the movie before we finally get to see the actual Miracle on the Hudson. And I have to admit, I was a little antsy in that first act because I was waiting for it. I'd seen clips of it in the trailer. I wanted to see how they were going to recreate this moment in film. And it's really not until later in the film, at least for me, getting into the second act and especially into the third act, when you see what their end game was and how they were trying to tell this story, that it all works. It's just, and I think I will actually enjoy this movie more the second time knowing their plan. And I wasn't just, I want to see the crash, I want to see the crash. So suffice it to say, there's method behind the madness of how this film is cut and edited and put together in a very non-linear fashion. But that doesn't change the fact that the first time watching it, that first act is going to seem a little slow. Now, the second potential issue with this movie is kind of in the last few minutes, the last scene essentially. And I don't want to spoil anything, I'm not going to, but the story's going in a particular direction, and some certain things come to light, and there's kind of almost a 180 with some characters making some statements and decisions that literally 2 minutes before they would not have made. It just seemed very abrupt. And before we can even really have a chance to digest this change, boom, it's over. I'm like, wow. I mean, it's a relatively short movie. I think it's like an hour and 38 minutes. It doesn't need to be any longer. Again, this is an incident that lasted 3 minutes. And as I said, there are some pacing issues here and there. But what this film really does focus on, or at least the new information in addition to the actual investigation, is seeing how this behind-the-scenes things fit in between the very public things that we saw. Sullenberg's interviews, him being on Letterman, the news reporting the day of, and seeing how this all fit together and how this man was dealing with all of this while trying to keep a very positive, smiling facade in public. And that's where Tom Hanks just shines. I mean, this is a well-acted movie across the board. Eastwood gets the best out of his actors. We know this. But Hanks, man. And you could say, this is his second film in the last few years of him playing a heroic captain. I don't care. He can find some other heroic captain to go play at. I'd go watch it, because the man can act. I mean, he's one of the best actors out there today, and once again proves it here. But all in all, this is a relatively short film. You're not going to be bored with it, even with the pacing issues in the first act. It's just a very enjoyable, I found, uplifting movie. And frankly, I go to a lot of movies, and it's not often that I just feel just an upswell of just good feelings after watching a movie. It just doesn't happen that often. Even when a movie has a happy ending, I'm happy for those characters, but it doesn't translate into me just feeling better. But this was a movie that I just felt better afterwards. I again, thoroughly enjoyed it. It's not perfect, but one I can highly recommend, both for the acting and the way and the story that's being told. So if you've seen Sully, let me know what you thought about it. Comment below. Tell me how you thought of the way they handled the story, if you liked the non-linear way of telling the story. As always, you can subscribe to my channel, check out some of my other reviews, and until next time, I'll see you at the movies.